Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and today I'm really pleased to share a microphone with OneSource, one of our newest industry supporter members. And with us is actually somebody that I've known for a while, which I don't get to do all the time, John Young, who's the Director of IT and Security at OneSource. And you were previously a customer.
I was. Rob, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fine. So I like the word uniquely positioned, if we would define it for our industries. But let me just understand, in the services that you provide, what is the geography?
Mostly in North America. Again, we started out as local to North Carolina, starting out in Greenville, where our headquarters currently sits. Fantastic market. Expanding also into Raleigh, and I think we start to look at from that territory just expanded across all the U.S. Again, I think we start to look at fast food markets and
people really expand in this marketplace too, right?
Absolutely. And if you're a franchise owner, you don't just capitalize on one market. You don't want to cannibalize that territory. You're looking at several different markets. So I think that's a big part of our ability to support a wide variety of not just geographic locations, but again, restaurant types.
So I want to come back to the word unique, because a lot of people talk about being uniquely qualified. Now, obviously, you personally are uniquely qualified to speak to the restaurant, business, and you were with a chain that was about 100 units or 80 to 100 units in there. So you understand that. But when I think about the food and beverage business, I not only think of franchisees and franchisors, I also think of different types of restaurants and different types of needs, especially in your area, because guests can be also tapping into some of these things that are being used. But then I also think about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're doing North America, follow the sun. And there are some real unique, aspects, by the way, retail and healthcare as well. There's some unique aspects to our business that you're focusing on. And so perhaps, those are some of those differentiation points between you and somebody who's a generic provider who would just do everybody.
Absolutely. I think, again, going back to the unique aspect, I think we built our business model to support so many different business verticals where if you're in the restaurant industry and you're operating 24 hours, then your pain point is uptime. If you're healthcare, again, good redundancies, good access to platforms, but also good security, being current on regulations, again, from a restaurant perspective, PCI. So I think our ability to service, across the business verticals has really kind of made us the choice provider of managed services, whether it's security, network, or infrastructure, or just advisory.
So are there some challenge areas that make the food and beverage, the retail industry sort of unique, that they have challenges that other people don't?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if I look at any challenges that come to mind from food and beverage. I think, again, the challenge areas that we normally see are looking at, again, just uptime, just making sure that operational is top of mind, but also security. So we look at what's mainstay right now is just access to Wi-Fi, access to networks. Also, it's a big security component. So making sure that we have good layered security, but offering, again, good operational business continuity for users. It's more common now. We're having more devices connected. So bandwidth is starting to become something that is something that,
well, they need more and more bandwidth, for sure, because everything is now connected, right? So there's going to be more need. Have you noticed? So you joined about a year ago, little over a year ago, right? So post-COVID, but within the history of the 20 years of OneSource, so 20 years, got that. You joined right after COVID. I've talked to a few people who joined like right before COVID. Have you seen an upswing and a better understanding by the owner operators, by the franchisees today than there might have been before?
I think so. I think there's a better understanding on just value positions as well. So a better understanding in that you really don't go by the old playbooks that we used to go to. So if you're looking at procurement, if you're looking at hardware, if you're looking at managed services, what I think used to be the old playbook to go to a top three provider beat them down on price, get a project manager, and then just deploy the solution. I think people are a lot more savvy now.
You're talking about the way you treated people when you're in your previous job.
Right.
Just want to make sure I had that right? So now you're on the other side of the coin.
Now it's on the other side that I'm really kind of partnering with executives that they see value in more. They really want everything from procurement to deployment to steady state, all really under one umbrella, one roof. And that's where I think through COVID, we're starting to see a massive transition. It started before COVID, but I think COVID really highlighted where managed services really comes in as an execution arm versus, hey, I've got to have IT staff.
Well, they understand that they need it,
Exactly.
because they have too many parts and pieces that they can't manage. They're getting requirements and a lot of new technologies that are coming to them. And it's very difficult you're not in the technology business, right? So, you need to operate. So you need a partner who understands it. And speaking of partners, so you did mention early on that while you may be a one source, bringing it all together, managing, I heard you say the word consulting in there, really being an internal partner, I believe is possibly the way to look at this. You do have partnerships to bring in people that work with you, but then you manage them. So what kinds of partnerships do you have?
So we have several partnerships that, again, those are services that we might provide. There's a few around security where we want to make sure that we don't self-audit. So we partner with good firms that do assessments where we might manage the service. We don't want to self-audit. So we use a partnership, Tangible, to do security assessments, penetration tests. We can also do that autonomously. So we can actually start out with a new customer with advisory under, let's do an audit first. Let's start to do asset inventory. Let's start to see how your network is, what the strength is. And then we naturally walk into managed services and what advisory they need. We also have partnerships that help with some of our clients or still have on-premise servers. So we're looking to move that to the cloud. We can do that internally, but we also have great partnerships. Align Technologies out of Raleigh being one, ATG. So for customers that want to migrate to cloud, it's a snap. So they can go.
You can offer them the service that includes the hardware as well. Of course, if you're doing hosting or you're doing those pieces, you're going to bring that to bear as well, which I would hope would be cost effective, right? In how they manage and how they stay on top of it as well, especially when you're bringing in different specialty groups and partnerships.
We can. And again, it's just an expansion of just what we can provide from a partnership. We think of ourselves as the go-to advisory firm. So if someone's looking at whether it's just a hardware refresh or a managed service or something that, again, we may not provide in-house, they still go to one source to get it. We just go through in either a partnership or a service that we already provide. So it really alleviates the pain point of 12 different RFPs going on at once. I've been
so if it is something that you don't currently have in your portfolio, but something the specific client needs, you're willing to find the right partner or something to put it under your umbrella and provide it to them?
Likely we already have it. I can't think of very many services that we don't provide.
Okay. So if you are making the sales pitch to your former self and you are, what's that commercial they have on TV? You have yourself and your former self. Here I am 10 minutes ago, right? If you're making that pitch in there with your background and understanding how a restaurant works, and how food service works, what are the key bullet points you're going to bring up on, what kind of upgrades they may need to do that's going to hit their bottom line, decrease their costs, and especially if they're in a franchise environment, decrease the operating expense?
I think what I would tell my former self is that by going through this model from a managed service, that you can really achieve a cost savings, or you can look at cost efficiencies that really pays for itself. So what we like to say is that, hey, some of the cost savings or through some of our services, they self-fund other services. And that's something that I really kind of had to learn the hard way. A lot of our customers go through these massive upgrades, and in the very same year are able to self-fund projects they have budgeted for 24 months from now, and they're able to pull that in. Security initiatives, things that they didn't have the budget for, that they could immediately spin around and say that, hey, now we're able to bring this in under the same type of service, but just get more value out of it. I think that's what I would have told myself. being in that position. I think I learned a lot.
Well, I think that if you were to tell me that, what you just said, and I think about it, if you're dealing especially with a entrepreneurial type of company, which is always looking at, how much well, it used to be, of course, that they considered the IT expenditures as an overhead one. And why couldn't I just go ahead and, go down the street and get that connection? I think they realize now that they can't just do that. But on the other hand, if you're able to show them where their duplication is or how to be more cost effective, what you're really doing is showing them how to be able to invest more effectively in their future, because they've got to know that every year more and more technology is coming down the pike: connected equipment, new payment methods, loyalty, something new that the customer is going to expect to plug into.
Right. And it never gets cheaper. I mean, very, very rarely we're looking at, again, from I think the way that we look at telecom, and we looked at managed services, I think from the partnership side, they see the value of, again, looking at circuit management, network management, security management. Having it under one umbrella really is more cost effective.
It'll help them to operate more effectively as well.
Absolutely. You're having to deal with less contract renewals, less spike increases on, if you're looking at procurement. A lot of that's really eliminated. And again, can do it through, multi-year contracts, to where we're not having to look at year-over-year budget increases of 10 to 15% that doesn't allow you to get that resource that you need. I think under this model, it allows them to grow organically, where they can grow their team out internally versus having to take the hit for hardware.
Are there different pricing models that a person can work with OneSource on? Obviously you have hardware, software as a service, but are there models also where it may be savings, or it might be an evergreen model, so they don't even have to think about it, as you just mentioned, multiple years? I mean, what are the types of models? Or
I think the two biggest choices that, if we look at a large scale network upgrade, or something where, we have multi-location security offerings, the biggest decision is whether do you want an OpEx model, meaning that, you don't want to incur a big CapEx balloon in the first couple 12 to 18 months. If you want an OpEx model, I think that's something that we give, one monthly payment, doesn't go up or down, really is more budget friendly. Again, going back to the things that I had to learn. I wish I'd known that in the beginning, because we had to really kind of fight that CapEx snake and cost. So that's one decision that they can look at. And then again, you look at whether you want 3 or 5 year, it helps you control the cost. If you think that, you were seeing licensing increasing 10 to 15% each year, and you want to lock it in for 5 years, that's a good cost-effective option. Really depends on the partner and the customer, and where they see them growing in the industry, and how we can support that. So
it's been a pleasure to have you on board with us today. And again, John Young, the Director of IT and the Security at OneSource, who was previously a customer. And OneSource is the IFBTA's newest industry supporter member. So welcome, and thank you for having this chat with me today.
Thank you. We are very proud of our partnership with IFBTA. Again, very, very excited. And thank you for having me. It was great just to talk about just where the industry is going, how we're supporting it, and how we're positioned for it. So exciting to talk to you today.